If you're just driving by, you might think that this is just a big old stone by the side of the road. But it's not. This mysterious looking carved stone was placed here in 1708. And it has something to do with one of the most notorious figures in American history. I hope you're wearing your adventure pants, because today we are off again on another historical action adventure. In 1775, here in Cambridge, Massachusetts, Benedict Arnold hatched a plan. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, yeah, he hatched a plan to turn over West Point to the British in exchange for money and a commission in the British Army. And you're right, he did. In 1780, it was revealed that Arnold had turned traitor. But this was 1775. This was a different Arnold. It was the same man, but in 1775, Benedict Arnold was a nearly unstoppable force for the American cause. And this was a different plan. This plan would bring Colonel Benedict Arnold and his 1,100 Continental Troops here to Newbury, Massachusetts, on the way to Newburyport, about 40 miles north of Cambridge. As they marched step by step, mile after mile, down this very road. In this video, we will retrace some of the steps of Benedict Arnold's famous expedition to Quebec and find out what this stone had to do with it. But for now, let's head back to Cambridge, because there are some things you should know. Cambridge Common, by the way, where we are right now, was established in 1630. And in 1775, it served as the center of the continental lines surrounding Boston. It was an encampment site and a parade ground for Continental Troops, and General Washington's headquarters were also here in Cambridge. And I'm sorry about the sunglasses, but it is incredibly, incredibly bright here today. Down here in Cambridge, Arnold hatched a plan for an incredibly daring and bold trek through the Maine wilderness to invade Quebec. And he needed volunteers. He recruited about 1,000 men from the 16,000 or so Continental Troops who were all encamped here in Cambridge during the siege of Boston. In about mid-September 1775, about the 13th or the 14th of the month, all of those volunteers mustered here on Cambridge Common, where they received their supplies for the journey. Why is it every time I talk about Benedict Arnold, the wind starts to pick up everywhere I am? It even happened in Saratoga when we were at his boot monument. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it below. But all of those men that volunteered for the expedition mustered here on Cambridge Common, and they were given supplies, their tents, in order to prepare for the first leg of that overland journey to Quebec that began here in Cambridge. So in about mid-September, those men set out. They were headed 40 miles north of here to Newburyport, where they would board ships to take them on the second leg of their journey up to Maine. And so the 1,000 or so men left here in staggered detachments for the day or two march to Newburyport. To strike out on their journey, the Continentals hit the road. This road. This is a segment of the original Bay Road, which was laid out in the 1630s. And this road stretched out from the Boston-Cambridge area all the way up to Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And we're here in Newbury, Massachusetts. And it's kind of funny to think that Benedict Arnold's famous trek to Quebec started out with over 1,000 Continental troops storming through the Boston suburbs. But it happened. As the Continental troops and then Benedict Arnold marched by, they passed this. This is a milestone, and it is one of the original milestones erected along the Bay Road in 1708. So let's take a closer look at these carvings. And I know they're kind of eroded. There's a lot of lichen on the stone, but we have to be understanding and accepting of that because this has been here for well over 300 years. So let's take a closer look. We have the beautiful lettering of a 3, a 5, and this perfect B. Any guesses as to what that signifies? Okay, close up here. Coming in, 3, 5, B. 35 miles to Boston. It's incredible to me to think that this stone saw Benedict Arnold himself as he passed by. But it's not the only one. We are on the road again. I've backtracked a little bit because there's really something I want to show you. This is an original stretch of the Bay Road. It's paved, of course, today, but this road is where Arnold and the Continentals marched on their trek to Quebec in September of 1775. And just up ahead, I couldn't resist, I had to stop. There's another milestone. So let's go check it out. Okay, here we go. Look at this. This is absolutely incredible. It is another milestone that's still standing today that stood along the original Bay Road. And this one too was carved and erected in 1708. And this one also has some cryptic information for us to decipher. You'll see that this one says 5N. And look at the shape of this 5. It is absolutely incredibly beautiful. And 33B. We backtracked a little bit, so we are 33 miles from Boston compared to the 35 miles on the other milestone. And this, the 5N, tells us that we are 5 miles from Newbury Town Center. And I just think about the Continental troops who marched past this in the fall of 1775 down this road, and how they must have glanced at it, thinking to themselves, 5 miles to go. Just incredible to think about. Had to show it to you. We are traveling north on the Old Bay Road through Newbury, Massachusetts, just as Arnold and the Continentals did in the fall of 1775. And as you can see, it's kind of a coastal estuary area. We're crossing the Parker River, and there's been a bridge here for centuries, just rebuilt over the years. So take it in. This is the view that Arnold and his men enjoyed in September of 1775 as they ventured out on that ill-fated expedition to Quebec. So where does this road take us? And where do all of the milestones we've been following lead? Well, to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, because in the 1630s, when the Bay Road was laid out, it served as the main highway between the Boston area and Portsmouth, New Hampshire. But for us today, it leads here to the Upper Green in Newbury, which in 1775 served as an encampment site for the men of Arnold's expedition to Quebec. And to commemorate the encampment site is this. Now you might think that that big rock sticking out of the ground is another milestone, but it's not. It's a monument. So let's go take a look. Let's get an up-close view of this monument, which still stands today on the Upper Green in Newbury. And it says that here were encamped September 17th, 18th, and 19th, 1775, 3 companies of riflemen under Captain Daniel Morgan, a part of the command of Benedict Arnold. So the men serving under Morgan encamped here over the course of a few days as all of the men kind of waited for all of those staggered detachments of men who left Cambridge to arrive here in Newbury to make the final leg of the journey, the final push into Newbury Port. And Morgan and his men stayed here. Benedict Arnold himself, however, did not. He didn't sleep here. He didn't have to. Arnold had stayed in Cambridge for a few extra days to tie up loose ends, and then he left on the morning of September 15th, Friday. He made it to Newburyport that night. The next stop for Arnold and his men would be Newburyport, where they would board ships to transport them a short distance up the coast to Maine, where they would then begin the next leg of their journey to invade Quebec. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.